Ladies and gentlemen, the narcissist thrives in the shadows of your uncertainty, feeding on hesitation, self-doubt, and the unspoken fear that you might not be worthy of respect. But there is a way to dismantle their power, to strike at the very core of their manipulation, not through aggression, but through unshakable clarity. If you want a toxic individual of this nature to fear you, not in the way they fear exposure or consequence, but in the way a predator fears a stronger predator, then you must master the language of absolute, unbreakable boundaries. First, understand this. Narcissism is not merely arrogance or self-absorption. It is a profound emptiness, a void that can never be filled. And so the narcissist seeks to dominate, to control, to extract validation from others because they cannot generate it within themselves. Their greatest terror? Someone who sees through the illusion, someone who refuses to play the game. And the moment you say with complete conviction, no, that is unacceptable, you become a threat. Not because you are cruel, but because you are immovable. The narcissist operates on a simple, brutal calculus. If they can make you question your own reality, they own you. Gaslighting, manipulation, guilt-tripping AUR, these are their tools. But when you respond with unwavering certainty, when you look them in the eye and say, I do not agree with your version of events and I will not entertain it, you pull the foundation out from under them. They rely on your willingness to second-guess yourself. Remove that and they have nothing. There's a phrase, a weapon really, that strikes deeper than any insult. I see what you airmen doing. Say it calmly, without malice, but with absolute precision. Do not elaborate, do not justify, do not give them room to twist your words. Simply observe, as if you are a scientist noting the behavior of a specimen under glass. The narcissist cannot bear being seen because their entire existence is built on the lie that they are the one who sees, judges, and controls. When you demonstrate that you are not fooled EEAUR, that you perceive their tactics with cold, detached clarity, they will recoil, not because you have attacked them, but because you have refused to be a participant in their theater. Another critical declaration, your opinion does not define me. The narcissist wants you to believe that their judgment is the final word on your worth. They will flatter you to lure you in, then tear you down to keep you dependent. But when you look at them and say, I am not interested in your evaluation, you sever their influence at the root. They may rage, they may escalate, but inwardly they will recognize that you are no longer a source of supply. And without supply, the narcissist starves. Now, let AORM talk about silence. Most people, when confronted with manipulation, feel compelled to explain, to argue, to prove, but the narcissist feeds on engagement. They want the back and forth, the drama, the cow saw ear, because in chaos they can dominate. So when you say, I have nothing more to say to you, and then follow through, ear, no last word, no reaction, no emotional payoff, ear, you become an enigma they cannot crack. Silence, when wielded correctly, is terrifying to those who rely on controlling the narrative. Finally, the ultimate declaration, I do not need you. The narcissista, ERTM, greatest fear is irrelevance. They want to believe they are the center of your world, the architect of your pain or your joy. But when you demonstrate through action and word that you are fully capable of walking away, or ear, that your life does not orbit around their approval, or ear, they are left with nothing but the hollow echo of their own insignificance. And that is a truth they will do anything to avoid facing. So speak these words, not with venom, but with the quiet certainty of someone who knows their own worth. Because in the end, the narcissist does not fear anger, ER. They feed on it. They do not fear hatred. They know how to twist it. What they truly fear is the person who cannot be moved, who cannot be manipulated, who looks them in the eye and says without hesitation, you have no power here, and then proves it. The narcissist survives by testing the edges of what you will tolerate. You are pushing further each time you hesitate, each time you soften your stance to keep the peace, each time you prioritize their comfort over your own dignity. Unbreakable boundaries are not about hostility or rigid rules. They are about the quiet, unshakable declaration that this far and no further. When you say with absolute clarity, no, I will not accept that, you do not just refuse a single demanda, you reject the entire premise that they have the right to dictate your reality. A boundary is only as strong as your willingness to enforce it, and the narcissist knows this. They will probe for weakness, feign misunderstanding or escalate their aggression to see if you fold. But when you stand firma, not with rage, but with calm, unyielding resolve, AERU, you reveal something terrifying to them, that their usual tactics no longer work. They rely on the predictability of human nature. EER, the desire to avoid conflict, the hope that kindness might soften them, the fear of being seen as difficult. But when they encounter someone who does not negotiate with emotional blackmail, who does not justify or over-explain, who simply says, this is not up for discussion, and means it, they are faced with an immovable object. And for the first time, they are the ones who must adjust. The key lies in consistency. A boundary stated but not enforced is worse than none at all. It teaches the narcissist that your words are empty, that pressure will eventually break you. But when you act without fanfare, to remove yourself from their reach, whether by ending a conversation, walking away, or cutting ties, you demonstrate that your boundaries are not negotiable. This is not cruelty, it is self-preservation. And the narcissist, though they may rage or play the victim, will secretly respect it. Not because they have changed, but because they recognize on some primal level that you are no longer prey. Unbreakable boundaries are not walls to keep the world out. They are the foundation of self-respect. And when the narcissist realizes you would rather lose them than lose yourself, their power evaporates. They may still lash out, but it will be the thrashing of a creature that knows it has already lost. Because the truth they fear most is this: the only person who can truly give them control over you is you, and you have chosen freedom. The narcissist constructs their world like a stage, AER. Every interaction is a performance, every word a carefully crafted line designed to elicit a specific reaction. They thrive in the chaos of emotional engagement, in the back and forth of debate, in the heat of an argument where they can twist logic and rewrite history to suit their narrative. But what happens when you refuse to play your part? When you step outside the drama and observe their machinations with the detached precision of a scientist studying a specimen, that is when you wield the most devastating weapon against them: cold, observational clarity. This is not about outsmarting them or delivering clever comebacks at irate irritum, about removing the emotional fuel they crave. When they spin a lie, instead of reacting with outrage or defensiveness, you simply state, that is an irritum, true, or I see what you were doing, without raising your voice or offering further explanation. The moment you strip away the emotional charge at irritum, their tactics become absurd, almost childish. A narcissist can work with your tears, your anger, even your hatred, but indifference, calm, unblinking recognition of their games, that terrifies them because it means you've stepped outside the arena where they dominate. This kind of clarity is surgical. You don't accuse, you don't plead, you don't get drawn into defending your perspective. You simply name the behavior, you are trying to provoke me, or this is manipulation AR, and then refuse to engage further. The power comes from the lack of reaction. Narcissists feed on the energy of conflict. When you deny them that, their words hang in the air, exposed and impotent. They may escalate, testing to see if they can finally crack your composure. But the more you maintain that steady, almost bored acknowledgement of their tactics, the more desperate they become. Because you, AERTEM, MAUR, re-seeing them. And nothing is more unnerving to a narcissist than being truly seen. This approach works because it bypasses their entire playbook. They can gaslight you if you calmly note their attempts. They can gaslight you, triangulate, or play the victim if you respond with a flat, interesting that you see it that way, and then change the subject. They rely on your emotional investment to maintain control, but cold observational clarity removes that leverage. ETA, AIR, is not about winning an argument, AIR. ETA, AIR, is about revealing that there is no argument to be had. You are no longer a participant in their game, you are an observer, and in that role, you hold all the power. Because the narcissista, EURTM, greatest fear is not being hated, AERTM being irrelevant. And when you look at them with the unimpressed gaze of someone watching a bad actor overplay their part, you reduce them to exactly what they are: transparent and ultimately powerless. The narcissist builds their entire existence upon a fragile yet carefully constructed narrative, AERTM, where they are the hero, the victim, or the infallible authority, depending on what serves them in the moment. Their power depends on your compliance with this story, your willingness to accept their version of reality as truth. But when you defy that narrative, AER, not with argument, but with quiet, unshakable refusal to endorse their fiction, AER, you strike at the core of their control. This defiance is na MTET, about proving them wrong or convincing them of anything. AER.it, about withdrawing your participation in their delusion. When they rewrite history, you don't allow it to correct them. You simply say, that him, not how I remember it, and leave it there. When they demand validation for their inflated self-image, you offer no praise, no resistance, just a neutral if you say so. The moment you stop feeding their need for admiration or conflict, their narrative begins to crumble. They may escalate, spinning wilder tales or accusing you of being cruel or insensitive. But your steady refusal to engage leaves them stranded in their own rhetoric. A narcissist can thrive in opposition, EER. They know how to play the martyr when challenged, EER. But indifference to their narrative is a void they cannot fill. This defiance is most powerful when it, EER, means rooted in action, not words. When they claim credit for your achievements, you don't meet argue, you simply stop sharing your successes with them. When they play the victim to manipulate sympathy, you don't AAR meet him to reassure or apologize, you change the subject or walk away. Each time you decline to play your assigned role in their drama, you expose the flimsiness of their construct. They need you to react, to plead, to defend, or to begate, anything that confirms their centrality in your emotional world. But when you respond to their theatrics with the same energy you would give a forgettable commercial, you reveal the truth. Their story is unconvincing, and you are no longer an audience. The narcissist will test you, probing for a crack in your resolve. They may love bomb you to lure you back into their script, or they may rage to frighten you into submission. But hold the line and something remarkable happens. Their narrative, starved of your compliance, starts to feel hollow even to them. Without your fear, your anger, or your attention, the performance falters. They may move on to a new audience, but they will remember you as the one who refused to applaud. And that is a defeat they can never undo. Defiance of their narrative is not about winning, D-E-A-N-G-A-T-A, about reclaiming your right to define your own reality. The narcissist fears nothing more than a person who cannot be scripted. Be that person, and their power over you dissolves like smoke in the wind. The narcissist's entire economy of control is built on one unshakable assumption. You are that you need something from them. Whether it's their approval, their attention, their perceived wisdom, or even their manufactured drama, they position themselves as the gatekeeper of your emotional sustenance. This is the illusion you shatter when you embrace radical self-sufficiency, when you demonstrate through word and action that every essential thing, you, your worth, your peace, your purpose, flows from internal springs they can never poison or access. This isn't mere independence. It's a fundamental rewiring of the power dynamic that leaves them grasping at air. True self-sufficiency terrifies the narcissist because it makes their tools obsolete. They can't weaponize your desire for love when you've built an unassailable love for yourself. They can't dangle validation as a reward when you've stopped keeping score. Their dramatic storms hold no threat when you've become your own shelter. This transformation isn't about isolation or bitter detachment. It's about reaching such wholeness within yourself that their attempts to destabilize you become like waves crashing against a cliff. You don't resist them. You outgrow the need to resist. The moment this shift occurs, you'll witness something remarkable. AER. Their behavior escalates briefly, a desperate attempt to prove you still need their chaos, followed by something almost like awe when they realize you genuinely don't. Their insults don't wound because you've stopped auditing your worth through their eyes. Their silent treatments don't panic you because you've made peace with solitude. Their attempts to triangulate others against you fail because you're no longer invested in controlling their narrative. This isn't indifference born from numbness, but from a profound abundance. A UAR, you've become a closed system they cannot infiltrate. Radical self-sufficiency is ultimately an act of rebellion against the narcissist's core belief error that everyone secretly fears being alone, that everyone can be controlled through their dependencies. When you stand before them completely at ease in your own company, needing nothing they pretend to offer, you don't just defeat their tactics. They may rage, they may smear you to others, but in quiet moments they'll wrestle with the terrifying truth your existence proves some people cannot be owned. And that knowledge will haunt them long after you've walked away. Thanks for watching.